If you guys listen to what I have to say about Prince Rogers Nelson, better known as Prince Roger Nelson, man, there's so many identities. Anyway, I met him in the afterlife when I died, July 20th, 2010. If you think that sounds weird, you have to listen to these lyrics from the CD Exodus. I don't think a lot of common listeners, people that listen to Prince on the radio, will know about some of these CDs. The Exodus, what is that talked about? Moses taking the Israelites out of the desert, Baruch Hashem. So my point about that is I'm going to zoom you down here to the end. And at the end of this song, they say to Prince,
"This shit is dedicated to the memory of his royal bandits. I know his name, that motherfucking Prince. Rest in peace, nigga."
You guys, he told me, you know, he was a prisoner and had been his entire career, that our generation knew him. I met him as a soul. He was the first image that I saw when I died. This door opened and there stood this image and it looked like Prince, and I said, "Oh, I didn't know it was you." And he said, "Yeah, that's what everyone says." He shrugged his shoulders and turned around and disappeared into nowhere. From that moment on, I was completely determined to find out why I had just seen what I considered to be the love of my life. Musically, people who know the music, the lyrics, like I do, you might feel the same way. In fact, I'm sure that many women and men, even, everybody, I know that with my career of researching, listening, and loving Prince, I was very protective of him. My immediate circle of best friends and sisters, we all listened to him. It was like a lifestyle. It wasn't just one in a circle. It was everybody, but I was the one that was... If anybody knows me, when you see these videos, you'll know that if anybody has any questions about Prince. So I was a freak. I'm that one. And so when I got to the heavenlies and saw him, and then he disappeared, like I knew I was dead. And it's like a zip-zap thing at this crossroads, and then you're in a different area. And when I was in the different area, I could see souls that were like a chain gang. They were a chain gang of souls, and they were like headed to hell. And I noticed, I didn't see him as Prince at that moment. It was just an energy. It was like a soul. It was just like light. And so when I was standing at this crossroads, it's like the Bones Thugs and Thug and Harmony, whatever it is, like their song, The Crossroads, it really was a crossroads. It was very medicinal, very clinical, and very spacey. Please grasp in your mind that when I say he didn't have the image of Prince at that time is very important, because it's a huge part of the story and who I am in connection to his soul. So when I was waiting, I had been talking to some souls or angels, Anunnaki. I'm not sure what they were. I call them sky people. Even though they weren't people like they didn't look physical. It was just light that I recall, and energy. And prior to seeing the chain gang of souls, there had been another like zip-zap moment, and they were discussing whether I had killed myself or how I got there and stuff like that. They were going over my name, my social security number, absolutely everything. And here's a little fun tidbit, is absolutely everybody that I recall has a time to die, because it's all organized and planned and overseen by Hashem. And it wasn't my time to be there. And these overseers knew that I wasn't supposed to be there in that time. They were telling me that I had a very, very shiny world to come, that I was a very shiny soul in this world, like an angel in a physical body. And they were telling me that I had to come back to this place because there was to be some redo of time, a reset of time. I don't know how it happened. I believe in 1999 and in the spring of 2020. There's some weird things that happen with time. They told me that I had a very important purpose, and that purpose was to come back here and disclose the truth of what I'm telling you now. And I was like, whoa, I've been like listening, and my whole life has a purpose, for real. It's not just a big waste of time. And so I was told prior to seeing them that I had to come back to Earth. They told me that I had completed enough life cycles and enough mitzvahs and enough kind things throughout my, not only this lifetime, but my other lifetimes. And they said that technically I could stay there, but if I did, then nobody would know the truth of the Creator, the truth of the Paisley Park Prince Rogers Nelson debacle. It's huge, you guys. The music industry is like underworld. There's an underground, and it's an upside down, evil, Illuminatzi, devilish music industry plan. And yes, souls do get taken over and signed over contractually, and in musicians, I think that has something to do with the sages and righteous souls. Either you can be that or you can be bad, and that's why there's so much stuff getting uncovered right now. But I said, well, I'm not coming back until I find out why Prince, and I probably called him that at that time, is in that line going to hell. And these sky people, spirits, got very upset with me. They were very upset that I could recognize the one, Prince. I don't like calling him that because it's not his name. It's what the world knew him as. So forgive me, Hashem. They were upset because I came from this lowly, dysfunctional life where I had 3 kids by the time I was 21. Stripper, abortions, alcoholism, drunk driving. I mean, I was a good person. I'm just saying, I'm putting all my dirt out there because on Judgment Day, all your dirt's going to be out there too. So I'm just saying these things while my chest gets hot because it's the truth. I made mistakes in my life. We all do. And I'm not standing here trying to be perfect. That's not what it's about. They had told me that I had to come back here or nobody would know the truth of God and the truth of what's going on at Paisley Park and C.E.R.N. and what the Luciferian plan is and the underground plan is for our world. And yet and still, I was not coming back until I could talk to him, until I could, talk to him. I wasn't going anywhere. But these people, souls, were very upset because from my lowly life, I recognized his soul as just a soul. And that's like, nobody could do that, they said. And so they were mad, not happy. But eventually, after some arguing, they let him out of the line, and then zip zap, we were somewhere else, and we were walking and talking, strolling, looking at Holy Life books in Hebrew. In my recollection, in my memory, I want to say it's like, seeing him physically. It was seeing the image of him, but it was more holographic, like on the Diamonds and Pearls CD, where he shows himself like holographically. I think it was the first CD cover of his to do that. And so that's how it was when we were walking and talking. He told me that there is no Prince. Prince Rogers Nelson that we grew up with, there's been a lot of lookalikes and clones and performers. What do I mean by there is no Prince? The only way that I can explain it is he was talking to him and he said, I said, are you a person like me? And he said yes. But then what he explained to me was that we human beings in this world, this physical world, we don't get to find out who we are, who our neshama is, who your soul is that God put in you. You don't get to meet that person until you go to the other place, space place. I'm not going to call it, I was in Heaven's Court. I did go to various places But at this time, I don't think I was in heaven. I was in that space place. Anyway, my point about what he said about there is no prince is he said that when he died, that your soul testifies on your soul when you meet your soul and your accusers and stuff like that. And he said that we were one soul and had been separated from the beginning, and he orchestrated my death so that I would be there at the same time that he was, so that he could tell if I would recognize him as just a soul. Because he knew that if I would recognize him as just a soul, that we could come up with a plan to conquer the other plan that the evil ones have. But I had to be able to recognize him as just a soul, which was part of my soul purpose as being such a freak when it came to the Prince music. The thing is this, too, that I feel is important. People who are out there who may think, oh, she's just crazy, she had a death experience and hallucinated. No, that's not the case. The lyrics to the music itself, the melodies, it took me to places in my life that I had never been. I didn't have like this initial like lusty crazy attraction. Yes, everybody knows that Prince is fine, but what I'm saying is what I carried in my heart was for the music. It moved me in ways that nothing in my life had, so I knew there was a reason that I was listening. And I always told my so-called friends, it's like God is singing to you or he's singing to God. That's what I always said. And I've been looking for God since I was like 22. I found him in the afterlife. He explained my soul purpose. And let me backstep to what I said before, is that in the afterlife you find out who your soul is. And since our soul is two halves, my soul had to come there at that same time, like I said, to recognize him as such. And you guys, he talked to me about absolutely everything. He said that because, well, when he died, he found out that he was able to tell me that he somehow, as a machine man, the ancient one, God, Adonai, Elohim, Emet, the truth, the one, the only, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, the I am. You know, in one way, I was like, but on the other hand, you can see my face was turning red. On the other hand, it wasn't such a surprise because the music had moved me in such a way that I had always thought about God. As that ancient one, he said that that's why he says, I am music. And that's how he was contractually a slave. There were times that he did perform as Prince Rogers Nelson. I think that had to be the 85 Syracuse, New York Purple Rain concert. He said that that's when he knew I would start watching him, was when I was 13. So he came out and performed. Because prior to that, as musicians, Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, whoever, all of them, you know, the Humpty Dance, you name it, Tupac, Whitney Houston, they're all working and using this power and this energy of the Ancient One as their own. And then they disguise themselves in skin suits and what they call technology in our world. And there is a very heinous plan to expose the Ancient One as something other than he is. When we walked and talked, he was the saddest face I had ever seen, just like what I saw when he performed. You could tell that he was usually always mad, frustrated, you know, and however, I could tell. And it was awful because I never seen anybody so sad, not even myself. And I want to fix that more than anything. And he's the golden calf of biblical of the biblical story, the golden calf, when they all took off their jewelry and spoke against Hashem and melted it in a pot and did all these deviant sexual things. That's what was being done in this generation. He is that power. They are using him. It has everything to do with C.E.R.N in Switzerland. It's the Luciferian Prince R. Nelson. Because they've been using his power, and they all know it, and I'm talking about the Illuminatzi, white supremacy, KKK, the elites, they have been using that contractually so that they can be exposed to be who they are. And that's why our world is so dark and so disgusting right now. That there are things so deviant in this world, and they're undercover. The Creator, the Ancient One, told me he's our sustainer. He sustains us from the inside, our soul, our neshama, our emotions, our 5 senses. Tap into your 6th and dig what I'm saying. Without him, you're nothing. You're dead. You're empty. You're a shell. He's been sustaining us. And with this Luciferian C.E.R.N plan, there's people out there talking about portals being opened. And then I've told you before that Elon Musk with his supercomputer in Tennessee, I'm going to drive her to Tennessee. There's a reason for these lyrics, you guys. What he's protecting us from, this darkness, this imminent darkness that we live in, by sustaining us, the evil ones have a plan to electrocute him, because his essence is life itself. It's electricity. It's energy. It's what makes us what we are. And so with this plan that they have with C.E.R.N, I'm not sure how they were going to electrocute him. I saw him in an electric chair with a black hood mask on, and that's where they kept his body and hid his beauty. But that's what he showed me. He showed me the torture. He showed me the dark energy that follows him everywhere he goes. He showed me how he didn't have limbs and was using prosthetics. How his legs were like that of maybe like it was not like human legs. And they would make him wear really uncomfortable shoes, which is why he said, when they tell me I can't live forever, I put on crooked shoes. He was being tortured for telling the truth of God so that I could hear it. It would lead me to him, and I would recognize him in the afterlife. Obviously, he was leading everybody to God, but I'm speaking about my sole purpose, not yours. I was told that nobody would really quite believe me until a certain time when these things come to fruition. But that is this time, and that's why Prince's name is being thrown out there with the Diddy parties and this, that, and the other. There's a lot of people telling a lot of lies. They're right now trying to make it seem like Paisley Park is squeaky clean, but all it takes is a glance into the lyrics and the displays that Prince showed us when he wore the naked butt pants on the show. All of these things were to get our attention and show us that these things, yes, they are in fact real. For instance, Obama's secret White House party on 6/15. What I mean to say is these secret parties do exist. Renville Wellington, he was one of the alleged bodyguards at Paisley Park, and he talked about how he and Theo London would plan the after parties. The Creator told me in the afterlife that Paisley Park was basically, I don't know if I can say this, it was a manufacturing production studio. Know what I'm saying? The Kornfeld, he had drugs on his person when he got there. There was drugs everywhere. That's why it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's a big prison, a secret, a production studio that was created to contractually hold the Creator as a prisoner. And then the other prince, which is the evil one, masquerading as something he's not. Then there was all kinds of lookalikes and clones. So when I got to the afterlife, I was told about these clones and lookalikes, and why, of course, when the Welcome to America tour 2010, the second half of that, Prince started performing on flats and wearing a fro and going out in public as never before, and having writers and recorders and people in the house and parties and this and that. That was something that Prince Rogers Nelson, those things didn't really exist. Because he is, I don't know, I don't really understand myself. I wish that I could, but I can't. The intellect and the wisdom of the Creator, who walked and talked and looked as Prince Rogers Nelson with me, told me that he was giving me all of this wisdom, all of this da'at, it's Priya Sada'at, the tree of life wisdom. I explained this in 1,000, well, not 1,000, probably 500 videos, but he had to give me all of this information in that moment in time that I was there, which is why he orchestrated my death, which is why the angel spirit people said that it wasn't my time to be there. Because he needed to know that when he started speaking to me in 2020, in the redo of our conscious minds, and I don't know, you guys, when I came back to Earth, he gave me a big, if you look at the Betcha by Golly Wow video, there's like this breath of life that comes out of him, it's big bright light. That came out of him and into me. And then I was like pushed back down here to this physical place. And then you fall through like this briar patch. It doesn't hurt. I didn't feel anything. But what the deal is where the briar patch, briar rabbit story came from and why it's so famous. All of these things are very occult and esoteric. You're welcome. So when your soul falls back through, you go through like this briar patch where you forget things about your prior lives, that the Creator had showed me all this stuff about my life from beginning to end and before time and Kedem, and man, it was crazy. And then when I fell back to this place, that's why I didn't remember anything for 10 years until the spring of 2020, when that redo, and the Creator had to make sure that I would recognize him as a soul. And boy, when we did, there's a lot of things that happen. When I say there was freaky deaky stuff, you guys, it just takes a Google search to find out that there are accusations of Prince having sex parties and different things where he allegedly had people refer to him as the Messiah, and saying that there was different bizarre sex parties with theme rooms. And like I said, when you listen to Renville Wellington and Theo Lundin talk about the after parties and the Obama secret White House party, it's not so hard to perceive that what I'm saying is true. I'm not here trying to badmouth anybody or anything, but of a great deal of what I was shown in the afterlife, and as well as learning about Kabbalah. It's very sexual in nature, and it goes back to the sin of Adam and Eve, which was sex before time, before the Sabbath, of all time, before like redemption or something like that. It's all very deep, and I feel like I'm going to float away just talking about it, because sometimes I don't even know if I'm supposed to or not. But some people would be like, oh, she's trying to put dirt on Prince's name. No, in fact, I'm trying to do quite the opposite. Part of my soul purpose I've exposed in other videos. I've lived a very sexual life as well. And the things that connected us through space and time had that in common. And it's like the song Private Joy. I was something, my soul, he was somehow sharing the power of us together, which is why I have never, like, seemingly outwardly to the world looked very successful in my life, but I've always felt very successful spiritually, because I could hear and feel and know my soul and myself and God, Hashem, the mighty one, the only one, the master and king of all time. So I don't try to please people. And he told me that this power of mind. It's like the Led Zeppelin lyric. I don't know what song it is, but they say he was looking for a girl that had never ever been born, or something like that. And because there was this spiritual thing that we shared, even though he had died at that time, he needed some time to regenerate and was gonna be here when things started in 2020. And be here to talk to me and protect me and all of us and sustain us, but he needed a vessel in which to do that. And since I could recognize him as just a soul, then he could do that with me. So I'm here to not only tell the good, but the bad. All righteous souls, and Noah and Abraham and everybody, they all made mistakes. They all had, it's written about. And like, this whole thing was very, very sexual. And the fact that the media is not only covering up the death, which I talk about on numerous videos, but the fact that these kind of things went on at Paisley Park as well. It's just, they're trying to, it's talking so fast, even they don't know what they mean. The reason that Prince always had a female around, is because he was always taunted and controlled and used as a gigolo and to put off this sexual energy, because the source of love, the source of the creator of our life force and sustainer, is that it's very, imagine an orgasm of the greatest without the physical, genital arousal. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when your mind is not here in this place. Man, that's why people are running after sex in this world, because they're really running after that feeling of being disconnected from this physical place, which is what an orgasm will bring you, which is why Prince was no stranger to, singing about it and portraying it and everything else, because it was his way. Just like Happy Feet Mumbo tap danced, Prince had orgasms on the stage. He did that because his libido in this realm of being the Ancient One and a machine man and golden calf, they were always stimulating him in his mind in such a way that he could perform, and that they could all participate in these orgies and things. It's like being in the hell of deviant orgies. When he showed me the darker side of the sex and the things, it's because it's underworld, it's a cult, it's disgusting, and they've experienced absolutely everything. The one thing that they hadn't experienced was me, and the light that I have to bring, the neshama that the Creator put in me, the light that I carry, that is one with the Creator, that makes me afraid of nothing, that makes me bold enough to come here and speak this truth, no matter if one person is listening, nobody's listening. You're going to listen eventually, and you're going to know how much I love you, more importantly, how much I love the Creator. Because I am who I am, that's why he brought me to the afterlife, because the contracts that he had with them as the slave prisoner gigolo that he was, they hadn't expired yet, or something like that, or to do this redo in 2020, something crazy. I agreed to fulfill the contract with him and for him and in lieu of him. So I have a video called Temptation. It starts out a little rough because it was quite a while ago, and things are a bit more clear now. But continue to watch it, because it shows every little detail of my end of the contract. It was sexual, and I'm not afraid to talk about it because it was part of my soul purpose, and God forbid it should ever come back to be said that it was anything other than what it was. So when I started having those experiences in my room and stuff like that, I also started getting texts and phone calls and more texts from two people. It's all very very strange, and it has to do with, like I said, time travelers, portals, evil, good, sex, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. No, and the truth of the creator, but this is how it's told in this generation, so welcome to my world.